Hi, everyone.
Hello. We're at the end of Genesis chapter 27 at verse 41.
So Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." And the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, "Surely your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you by intending to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him a few days until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved also of you both in one day?" And Rebekah said to Isaac, "I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth, like these who are the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me?"
Now we're into chapter 28. Then Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and directed him, "You must not take a wife from the Canaanite women. Arise, go to Paddan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take as your wife from there one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. God Almighty bless you." That's El Shaddai, by the way. "El Shaddai bless you, and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may become a company of peoples. May he give the blessing of Abraham to you and to your offspring with you, that you may take possession of the land of your sojournings that God gave to Abraham." Thus Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Paddan Aram to Laban, the son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Paddan Aram to take a wife from there, and that as he had blessed him, he directed him, "You must not take a wife from the Canaanite women," and that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and gone to Paddan Aram. So when Esau saw that the Canaanite women did not please Isaac his father, Esau went to Ishmael and took as his wife, besides the wives he had, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth. I guess the thing that stares at you as you get to the end of 27 is everything they do now is based on miscalculations.
Yeah, Rebecca's thinking it's going to be a few days, and then Esau will forget what his brother did. I think that's rather an unrealistic hope on her part.
Yeah, and the irony is, of course, that no, Isaac is not near death.
Yeah.
He's going to live another 43 years. Nobody seems to factor that in.
Well, I guess because he's quite old at this point, so they're thinking it's going to happen any minute. But it's human calculations again.
Mm-hmm.
When we all do that. We plan. They say the joke is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. This is you should leave the future to God.
So the fact that she's never going to see him again doesn't even enter her mind.
No. But that's the truth. That's what happens. She never sees him again. And then I think it's interesting that it's not like it's just her that sends him away, Jacob away. Isaac also sends him away. And he makes a specific point of, go there and get a wife, so that it's not women of the place they're at.
So they're trying to avoid one mess, and that's commendable, because apparently Isaac is remembering, and she too, that the promise given through Isaac, the child of promise, had to do with taking extraordinary measures if necessary to find yourself a wife who's compatible with you, who is in the Semitic line. Maybe they remember the great promise through Noah that Yahweh will be the God of Shem. So they're not going to go to non-Semitic peoples.
Yeah, so I think this is another area where our modern thinking messes us up, because we think, oh, well, this is just prejudice. They're just prejudiced. But think in terms of when somebody is sick, you stay away from them. Separation. That makes sense. You're protecting. What about spiritual dangers? We don't even think of that. That separation from that kind of influence, especially in marriage, because marriage, you have to be on the same track for it to work smoothly anyways.
What's being forgotten, of course, is that when Jacob gets to Laban has his own plans, which they don't know anything about, and Jacob doesn't know anything about when he gets there.
Yeah.
And that is going to delay Jacob's decisions and plans, his own plans, for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, again, miscalculations everywhere you look. Everybody here is looking for the optimal outcome. But Laban's plan eventuates in another immense problem for the family, which is now Jacob ends up married to 4 women, as it were, having children through 4 women anyway. Well, that's a different kind of danger, but it's not the danger they're anticipating here, which is mixed marriages with non-Semitic peoples.
Yeah.
People not near not the people of Yahweh. So they avoid the Hittites in Rebecca's calculation here about who he should marry. Don't marry Hittites. Well, they're Hamites, so yeah, stay away from them. They have different gods. And then Esau's calculation looks like a half measure, though, doesn't it? He goes to Ishmael, who is semi-related, but through an Egyptian woman.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of curious. It's as if he didn't realize that the choices he made had disappointed his parents. It's like, this is like, oh, I see they don't really like that, so I'll take one that's kind of related, closer to home.
Yeah.
In an effort to please them.
We'll see how that works out. Here's the quotes. You've got a couple from John Davis, Paradise to Prison, right?
Yes. He says, Isaac's continued preference of Esau is a sad commentary on his spiritual discernment this late in life. He seems to have completely ignored Esau's bartering of the birthright and his grievous marriages. Isaac's natural desires were evidently more important to him than spiritual and moral values. This dependence on his senses turned out to be his undoing. Isaac's dependence upon his 5 senses resulted in his deception, and this provides a rather subtle warning to all who would depend solely on empirical evidence for truth.
Empirical evidence.
Oh, empirical, sorry.
And that's,
what did I say?
Imperial. So,
empirical,
what are we talking about here? Well, Davis is in effect saying, if we trust our senses, we'll end up in trouble. But we've seen evidence that that's exactly what Isaac normally does. His appetites tend to rule him, right?
Yeah. He also says, as a result of the deception, Esau deeply hated Jacob and fully intended to slay him after Isaac died, not realizing that Isaac would live another 43 years. Rebekah heard about Esau's intentions and suggested to Jacob that he flee to Haran and reside with her brother Laban a few days. She apparently agreed that the death of Isaac was not far away. She ends up dying before he does.
Yeah. And Alfred Edersheim, in his Bible history, says the last sentence, then he's talking here about verse 40 apparently, when Isaac says to Esau, by your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. When you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck. And Edersheim says that last sentence, it has been well remarked, refers to the varying success of the future struggles between Israel and Edom, and introduces into the blessing of Jacob an element of judgment. And when we compare the words of Isaac with the history of Israel and Edom, down to the time when Herod the Idumean, that is, Edomite, possessed himself of the throne of David, we see how correctly the whole has been summed up in Hebrews 11, verse 20. By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau, concerning things to come. So the irony is that there is a blessing for Edom. In fact, one day they're going to try to claim the throne of David, the Herod family, calling themselves king of the Jews. But that's the end of Edom, apparently, with the Herods, and they disappear. They're as it were, swallowed by the nations.
And then there's a quote here by Griffith Thomas. "Be sure your sin will find you out. This message is writ large on every line of the story. All four found this out to their cost, as we see in the subsequent history of Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Esau. They were never the same afterwards, and their sins in some respects dogged their footsteps all the rest of their days. If only Isaac had realized that at the outset, how much he might have saved himself and his family. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." And he's quoting Walter Scott there.
And finally, Franz Delitzsch. "The scriptural account itself abstains from all comment, but the history of aftertimes passes the severest criticism upon Jacob's conduct. The government of God, which can make even sin subserve its purposes, soars so high above this tangled web that without infringing human freedom, nothing comes to pass but what he has foreseen and predetermined." So in other words, in today's language, God's will is going to be done on earth.
Yeah, but the consequences of sin will be felt, and sometimes for more than just you and your family, but for the future. Those things will still happen that hurt you.
It's interesting, now we're in the second half of Genesis, and this is a half of Genesis that we were trained to basically ignore, except for the story of Joseph at the end. We were ignoring the
Jacob's
mess
life
that Jacob makes of his life and his family's life.
Yeah.
Why? Because we believe that you're only as good as your faithful deeds. And Jacob's being part of the divine purpose without that requirement is just not acceptable to us in our JW
It doesn't
mindset.
quite fit the Watchtower narrative, so we'll just ignore it.
Yeah. We're going to put a link into why the hatred, or you might say superiority complex in respect to the Canaanites here. It's not racism, and it's not just hatred of neighbor. The gross, depraved, and irrational religion of the Canaanites is the title of the video. And not just the Canaanites, but some of their other neighbors as well. See you soon.